Dawn broke over the inn, painting the dusty room in a pale, sickly light. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. It should have been a peaceful morning, a moment of calm before the day began.
Instead, a collective gasp of horror echoed through the old building, shattering the fragile silence.
Each friend bore a new mark, a dark, intricate symbol etched onto their skin. The symbols seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Confusion quickly gave way to fear as the reality of their situation began to sink in. These marks were not random. They felt deliberate, malicious, as if placed there with a dark purpose.
The friends gathered in the center of the room, their faces drawn and pale, eyes darting around in search of answers. Each mark was unique, yet undeniably connected, like pieces of a dark puzzle. They were like twisted reflections of each other, swirling patterns of shadow and dread, binding them together in an unspoken terror.
A cold shiver ran down Sarah's spine, her breath hitching as she tried to steady herself. She traced her mark with a trembling finger, feeling the strange warmth emanating from it. It felt strangely warm, like a brand, a constant reminder of the unknown force that had marked them.
Whispers filled the room as they tried to make sense of the situation, each theory more outlandish than the last. Had someone snuck into their rooms during the night, leaving these marks as a cruel joke? Or was there something far more sinister at play, something beyond their understanding?
Maybe it was a prank, a twisted initiation into the town's folklore, a dark tradition meant to scare newcomers. But deep down, a knot of fear tightened in his gut, a primal instinct warning him of danger. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, that they were being watched by unseen eyes.
Sarah remembered the journal, a relic from her grandmother's attic. The leather-bound book, filled with frantic scribblings and chilling illustrations, spoke of a curse that had plagued their family for generations. A mark that branded the souls of the damned, a curse that seemed inescapable.
She pulled it out, her hands shaking, the weight of its history pressing down on her. As she flipped through the brittle pages, her blood ran cold, each word more terrifying than the last. There, sketched in faded ink, were symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Symbols that mirrored the marks on their skin, a chilling confirmation of the curse's reality.
The room fell silent as Sarah shared her discovery, the gravity of the situation sinking in. The air grew heavy with a palpable sense of dread, each friend feeling the weight of the curse. The journal's words painted a grim picture, a tale of sorrow and vengeance. A vengeful spirit, bound to the town, sought retribution for a past betrayal, its wrath unending. It marked its victims, slowly draining their life force until they joined it in its torment, a fate worse than death.
Luke's attempt at rationality crumbled, his mind unable to grasp the horror they faced. The truth was far more terrifying than any prank, a reality they could not escape.
Fear turned to anger, a burning desire to fight back against the curse. They were not going to be victims, they decided, their resolve hardening. They had to find a way to break the curse, but how? The journal held the key, but its secrets were well guarded. The journal offered no easy answers, its pages filled with cryptic messages and ancient lore. It spoke of ancient rituals, of sacrifices that would appease the spirit's wrath. But at what cost? But the words were cryptic, shrouded in mystery, leaving them with more questions than answers. As the day wore on, the marks on their skin began to change, morphing into something more sinister. They darkened, spread like creeping shadows, inching their way across the skin. With each subtle shift, the group's paranoia grew, feeding off the fear that was taking root in their hearts. Suspicions festered, turning friend against friend as trust began to erode.
Was the spirit influencing them, turning them against each other? The question lingered in every glance. The once comforting walls of the inn now felt like a prison, closing in on them with every passing moment. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind through the eaves sent shivers down their spines, amplifying their dread.
They were trapped in a nightmare, hunted by an unseen force that seemed to lurk in every shadow. The weight of the curse pressed down on them, suffocating their hope and crushing their spirits. They had to find a way to break free, to escape the clutches of the malevolent force.
The once banter-filled conversations were now hushed whispers, punctuated by nervous glances and fearful silences. The bonds of friendship, tested by fear and suspicion, began to fray, unraveling under the strain. They were losing themselves to the curse, their unity crumbling into paranoia and despair as hope faded into the darkness. Driven by a desperate hope, they began to explore the inn. They searched for clues, for anything that could shed light on the curse and how to break it. In a dusty attic, they stumbled upon a treasure trove of old photographs and documents.
Images of the town's past inhabitants stared back at them, their faces etched with a haunting familiarity.
As they examined the photographs more closely, a chilling detail emerged. Many of the individuals in the pictures bore the same strange markings on their skin, the marks of the curse.
It had been here all along, woven into the very fabric of the town's history. They were not the first victims, and unless they found a way to break the curse, they wouldn't be the last.